Hey everyone, welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. We are really excited to get an opportunity to share with you a little bit more information about the MovingWorlds Institute as we enter a month of applications, getting ready for our next cohort starting in winter 2018. So really quickly, I wanted to introduce those of us who are on the call. We've actually got team members calling in from all over the world, which is very much the culture of MovingWorlds and the MovingWorlds Institute. So for starters, my name is Cole Huber. I'm the director of the MovingWorlds Institute, and I'm calling in today from Naples, Italy. And also on the line, we have my colleague Millie Vo, who is our community manager, and she's calling in from Medellin, Colombia. Millie, if you could introduce yourself.
Hello there. Like Cole mentioned, my name is Millie, and today I'm calling in from Medellin, Colombia. So there are a lot of noises going on in the background, just so you know. I appreciate your patience, but I'll be working with you in terms of helping you to get together your matches for your expertarian project at the end of the program. Mark?
Perfect. And my name is Mark Orszewski, co-founder and CEO of MovingWorlds, currently dialing in from beautiful University of Washington campus in Seattle, Washington. And look, we just want to kick off the Institute presentation in a way that we kick off really a lot of our activities that involve this idea of growing personally and professionally through service. And that's with just a moment of intention setting, of the realization that each of us as individuals have this incredible capacity to create change, and our skills, our brains are our most valuable asset, and how we decide to apply those when we travel, when we go through education, and of course, when we work in a career is why we've started MovingWorlds. It's to unleash that skill, that capacity that you have for change. And when MovingWorlds first started, it was a platform and program to help people find the best place to apply those skills around the world while traveling through volunteer engagements. And over the past now over 6 years, we've been developing leadership programming around that expertarian experience, working with organizations like Microsoft, Booking.com, the Siemens Stiftung Foundation in Germany, and many more who have turned to expertarian as a way to not only create a sustainable impact in the field, but also to help people grow professionally and personally through that process. And so here, a smattering of different news pieces that we've been picked up, a few of the ones that have really led to the foundation of the Institute. And I'll start on the left of the screen here with the Seattle Times article about the program that we designed for Microsoft, where it was Microsoft Teaching and Learning in Africa through its My Skills for Africa program, where over the years, we've continued to innovate and create a program that creates a sustainable difference with education, startups, nonprofits, governmental, and other small business groups across Africa, but helps the employees come back, and we track and measure the development of empathy, global leadership skills, innovation, and more. And the highlights of that have been written up in Stanford Social Innovation Review, Harvard Business Review. And what we're so excited about in the Institute is we've got to take all these best practices that have typically only been reserved for people in development programs at corporations and make those available to everybody. And so that's really why the Institute has been created and comes out of this legacy that we have of MovingWorlds, of helping people grow through the act of giving. So with Cole, I'll hand it back over to you now to talk more about the Institute actual experience and programming.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Mark, and thanks for grounding us in that. So just to kick things off, we really frame all the work we do with MovingWorlds Institute from the perspective of human-centered design. So as you've seen on the website and through the application, human-centered design is one of the valuable skills that you gain throughout the experience, but it's also really how we frame our learning, how we build things together, and how we create community. So as you can see on this slide, we break up our program. The kind of three pillars of it are education, experience, and reflection. And that really fits into this human-centered design approach, which is about inspiration, which is going out there and learning new things, ideation, which is starting to recognize patterns, and then implementation, which is getting out there, getting things done, building new exciting stuff, and having an actual social impact. So that's a little bit about the DNA of our program and what brings us together. But what it really is, the MovingWorlds Institute, is a cohort-based experiential program with structured learning, networking, mentorship, and guided discovery. The whole point is to help you develop leadership and innovation abilities while also contributing to the greater good. And the way that we do that, so how we frame the objectives of the program, just to give you a little bit of a breakdown of what we'll be doing together and what you'll be gaining. So on the very high level, you'll be developing out skills in human-centered design, shared value, cross-cultural leadership, and you'll also be finding ways to take your existing skills and adapt those to a world-positive career. And how we get to that is through cultivating an understanding for you of what the 4 impact industries are. So what is social innovation? What is social entrepreneurship? How are all these things manifesting in our world today? And how can you use them as levers for change? And then how do you have the objective of creating a global network that helps you to keep learning, connecting to future opportunities, and ideating on new and meaningful ways to give back? How do you understand your strengths and how those would apply specifically to a social impact environment? One of the things that we find through the cohorts that we've conducted is that people come to us with all these really exciting things they want to do, but many of us, myself included, it takes years and years to figure out how your unique skills can have an impact, and that's something we focus on. And we focus on that by helping you to demonstrate this, by working with a social enterprise or not-for-profit NGO around the world. And through the process, you increase your confidence in doing it and use this as a stepping stone towards your professional and personal aspirations for an impact. So we accomplish all these objectives also by giving you access to proven methodologies, time-saving tools, and ways of tracking your success. And hopefully, in the end, we have given you skills and a mentor and connections to industry leaders who help to make you a more effective global leader. Another thing that we find is something that all the applicants who are coming through the program are curious and learning more about is not just what are the objectives of the program, but how does that actually manifest in people who go through it, the actual fellows. And so for that, I'd love to pull up some stories about 2 of the different fellows that have went through our program. 2 of which you've maybe been able to read through some of the emails that have been going out. So Fernanda Olivier and Heather Watkins. So Fernanda is an amazing MovingWorlds fellow. She came to us as a marketing professional. She'd been working with universities, helping them to partner across sectors and to build their brands and new communication strategies. But she was feeling kind of stuck in her work and she wanted to find ways to branch out. So she worked with the MovingWorlds Institute to find a placement with an organization called Level Up Village, which got her out there working in the education field with NGOs all over the world. And she was actually able to apply her skills. And with a quote here that you can read, a biggest thing for her was, you know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of learning, but when you're doing things that align with your skills, it doesn't feel like work, it feels like growth. And it feels like an opportunity to connect with kind of your greatest calling in relation to your career. So Fernanda was an amazing person who went through our fellowship program. She went and actually did a 5-month expertise program. Everyone does a customized amount of time, it could be from 2 weeks to 5 months. She went on the longer end of things. And as a result of it, she's actually been getting connected to jobs and paid opportunities directly connected to her expertise experience. And so another fellow that I'd love to highlight, which maybe some of you have been introduced to through our video telling the story of the MovingWorlds Institute, is Heather Watkins. And so just to pull out a little bit of information on Heather. So Heather had worked with tech startups. She'd been in Silicon Valley. She had been advancing a ton in her career, but she was consistently trying to find ways to give back and use her skills for higher impact. So that's why she came to the MovingWorlds Institute. And she was paired with a project in Tanzania, and she helped basically the Tanzanian equivalent of Sesame Street to create new kind of operational excellence and marketing around how to grow out their brand and to scale it to a new audience. But before she was able to do that, she came to us with a lot of questions. And so for those of you who are watching this recording and following along at home, you can read through all of Heather's testimonial in length. But just a couple things that I wanted to pull out. You know, she was saying that she was really on this big self-reflection journey for years. She talked to coaches, she read all the books, she read all the blogs, she listened to the podcast, she talked to her husband, her family, and friends. And she was doing a lot of questioning of like, what do you do without actually doing anything? And finally, you know, she was in this moment of like, what the hell is my next step? And at that time, she stumbled across the MovingWorlds Institute. She got a chance to apply. She was accepted. She was an amazing individual. And then she jumped in and spent 4 days with us as a part of the launch experience. So every MovingWorlds Institute cohort begins with 4 days in person, bringing people from all over the world and speakers and mentors and coaches to support you. And she worked with these incredible people who'd also been struggling with some of the same questions. So she surrounded herself in this process. She immersed herself with people like Regula from Switzerland, who is a social entrepreneur who'd been working for years in the Philippines, Christy, who is a researcher, Mirna, who was from Italy and working for the UN. And over the time, she started realizing how much these people's experiences mirrored her own and how much she was able to reaffirm the amazing work she wanted to do in the world. So again, if you haven't already, watch Heather's story on the video, but these are just some of the pieces that we really like to talk a little bit about. And Mark, before I jump into the learning resources, if you could cue me up, I'd love to just run through the schedule to give the people a bit of an idea for not only what are the objectives and what are the stories of some of the fellows, but how does it all actually play out? So again, we frame our whole cohort experience in terms of these 3 core ideas from the human-centered design methodology: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. So starting in the first couple months, we're meeting weekly on Slack. So Slack is our online collaboration tool, and this is really the lifeblood. This is a piece that Millie drives a lot of conversations and builds tons of community. This is Millie's background as an expert in bringing together communities online. We're asking questions, we're sharing insights, we're supporting each other. We're also starting out a speaker series. So there's a monthly webinar, which is a way that you connect to industry leaders from all over the world, industry leaders, which we'll talk about in a second. And these are people who are sharing insights from their work, building and scaling social enterprises, working in governments, publishing books on these topics. This is a great way to get inspired and keep you going throughout the fellowship. You're also individually going to be paired with a mentor, and this happens throughout the MovingWorlds experience. And this is someone who, on your own schedule and working with one of our patented MovingWorlds Institute mentorship guides, you will be building a plan and holding yourself accountable with the help of your mentor to having an amazing impact through the program. The next piece is the extra tiering project. This is something that's done on your schedule. It can happen at any time throughout the 6-month MovingWorlds Institute Fellowship. And this is something you're planning, doing, and reintegrating and reflecting on with your cohort members, with your mentor, and with industry leaders. And so broken up the schedule, we also have at the beginning a real emphasis on setting goals. So everything that you're going to be doing throughout the MovingWorlds Institute Fellowship is about building a portfolio that you can use not only to reflect and grow individually, but use as something that makes you more marketable as you're out there looking for social impact jobs, regardless of what your field is. And so that starts again with goal setting, that moves into network building, and we help you with personal outreach tools. This all culminates in the implementation phase of the capstone project, where we are helping you to bring everything together. We're helping you to formalize a deliverable for the social enterprise you've been working with. And then we help you to publish something. So those of you who saw Fernanda's piece on her experience at Level Up Village, we help fellows to produce a video, a website, a blog, something that helps you to tell the story and why you are uniquely suited to have this kind of impact out in the world. And then in the final month, you are paired with a coach who's someone who will be leading you through some webinars, giving you best practices and tips for doing additional networking and telling your story, and helping you with career next steps. So in service of making all this happen, really quickly love just to call out some of our learning resources. So everything about the MovingWorlds Institute is a customizable learning journey. We have 6 months of an online collaborative community. You're going to be spending some amount of time out there working with the social enterprise in the field, and you're going to be going through and doing your own mentoring. But what we try to do is give you a suite, an entire collection of checklists, tracking documents, ways to keep you on pace, even though you may be still working your full-time job, beginning a transition, juggling family life, kids, and other responsibilities. We give you not only a checklist, but also a way to set goals with your mentor, a way to track your networking and do better outreach, ways to plan your experteering experience. We find that many people don't get all the kind of meaningful pieces out of volunteering, or in our case, experteering, because they don't properly create agreements with the social enterprise or NGO that they're working with. And we give you an experteering guide that helps you to plan everything you're going to do with your partner. So when you show up on day one, expectations are clear and you all know what you're marching towards. So in addition to these learning resources, which are kind of the tools we use to build out your whole time with the MovingWorlds Institute Fellowship, we also tap into some amazing foundational other tools, like the GlobeSmart assessment, which some of you maybe have heard of. The GlobeSmart assessment is one of the leading ways that people build cultural competency and are able to understand themselves and their leadership styles in cross-cultural contexts. So it's not just about understanding yourself better, but it's finding ways to communicate more effectively, build more empathy, and actually find ways to be effective in a cross-cultural environment. And also another one of our favorites is the Imperative Purpose Assessment. So Imperative is an organization that has mapped purpose in the workforce. They've done the largest studies with LinkedIn, New York University, and several others around why people do their work. Like, why do they wake up? What drives them? And so we work specifically with Imperative, and I actually am an Imperative certified purpose coach. We'll walk you through these assessments that help you to understand, why you do your work, who you want to serve, and how you go about doing it. These simple questions, when pulled out on a matrix, give you some really deep insights into who you are and kind of how you can have the greatest impact. The way that we do this is through building a community online. We share accountability with each other. We have accountability buddies, accountability groups that are assigned through the whole experience. You're able to create a plan and reference your community checklist, and work online together all across the world like we are today to achieve your goals. So Mark, I'd love just to touch base a little bit on another one of the special pieces that brings the whole experience together. And that's something I mentioned earlier. Those are the MovingWorlds Institute mentors and partners. So here's just a really quick snapshot. If you want to go on the website, you can see all the bios together. But these are some of the people, people like Maya Lee, coming from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Kino Sadler, who's the executive director of Echoing Green, a social enterprise fellowship, Akhtar Badshah, who is a professor, former lecturer from MIT, who led corporate philanthropy for Microsoft for years. We've got people working in CSR in places like PricewaterhouseCoopers. We've got people working out in the field in international development, university professors who are some of the leading thinkers on social enterprise. Just go on the website and dig in more. You'll see that this is an amazing community that you get connected to as a result of your MovingWorlds Institute Fellowship. And so before we talk more about, what does an experteering placement look like, and Millie is going to give us a little bit more of an insight on that, I want to talk about, what does it look like to do a MovingWorlds Institute experteering project? There's a couple different flavors of a social impact placement. So we get asked, to do a MovingWorlds Institute social impact placement to be an expertise, or do I have to be a consultant? And on this slide, it gives us a chance to show you, what are some of the different ways that you can engage. And so one is as a consultant. We've had many people who go and do a very discrete project or offer kind of high-level drop-in consulting practices. We have people who are assigned to project-based work, where they are just working on one specific thing within an organization, and at the end, they are creating something that will strengthen the organization as a whole. We have folks like Jason, who was an expertise working in Colombia, who helped to do training and coaching and upskill a team of fair trade coffee exporters. And then finally, for people like Nicole, who's profiled right here, or Fernanda, there's also the opportunity to really go the intense route and become a core team member. Nicole, who's an example, joined a digital money transfer service in Brazil. Fernanda joined the educational operations of Level Up in Nicaragua. These are people who are having a huge impact by actually embedding themselves deeply in the organization. So this is a little bit of an introduction for the kind of roles that you will be taking up when you're doing a MovingWorlds Institute Expertise Placement. And I'm going to turn it over to Millie to quickly talk a little bit about what does the expertise process look like? What is it like for us to open up our global network of social enterprises to you as a part of the fellowship?
Hello, everyone there. And so a part of the matching process right there, it works on multiple levels and gives you an opportunity to really dive in and practice everything that you've learned as part of the curriculum of the Institute, from the cross-cultural collaboration to, like human-centered design, understanding how to assess your impact, etc. And so with matching, we have a variety of different projects that are available on the platform that you can look through. And you can make as many requests for introductions on the platform as possible. We update this on a regular basis, so there will always be new projects available. And now, if on looking through these projects, you find that there may be not something that was a good match for you, what we can also do is on our custom matching end, we bring you into the process early on to co-create a project that would best fit with best executing practices as well as sustainability, social impact, etc. So essentially, at the end of the day, a project is guaranteed for you. If you go to next slide, please, Mark. Thank you. And so during this whole process, from the point of requesting an introduction with an organization, we want to ensure that this is a good match, and so we encourage there to be a lot of collaboration and dialogue between you and your potential host. This starts out with an introduction. You set up a call. Through this call, you work together to iron out the deliverables of the project, and then moving towards planning it before you leave. And throughout every single step of the way, our team will be there to support you with guides as well as a framework for how to assess the impact of each project. And here on this next slide, your planning guide, it is quite an extensive, it is a very extensive guide right here. And the whole point is that, we want you to be able to clearly understand how your work has an impact, and also to address some of the things that may come up along the way that you want to anticipate. So the whole idea of this is to just make sure you're very well prepared to have a positive, productive external experience.
Perfect. Thanks, Millie. So, to just kind of tie in some of those themes from Cole and from Millie, the Institute, starting with the in-person placement, is a place for you to better understand where you'll be going in your career, whether that's for the sake of a promotion or for the sake of a complete career transition, or even for the sake of starting your own enterprise and initiative. The idea of let's learn leading concepts together. Let's continue to discuss those. Let's set our own learning goals, personal goals, professional goals, networking goals, and more. And then let's go forth and execute, and let's document that in our guides. Let's keep a checklist. Let's build accountability with each other, with our program team, and also with your other fellow members. And then from there, you'll weave those into your actual expertise experience. The best way to learn is through experience. And so by virtue of talking through the planning guide that Millie just highlighted, you're actually developing that rich cultural experience and demonstrating that you have the capability to go into the field, make an impact. And of course, that's where most of the learning will occur. And then we bring you back together and we reflect that, we digest that, and we help you think about how you can communicate that to whatever your goals are. Again, promotion, starting your own enterprise, changing sectors, getting into a social enterprise or other social impact organization for your career path. So that's really the course of the program. And so a little bit more about what else is unique about the Institute. And I think who our fellows are in the past is what makes that real. So on the left here, you can see where are people coming from independent, like as in their own organizations, international, large corporations, other large organizations, right? Employees of over 1,000 people, medium size, right? 100 to 1,000 people, employees. And then of course, startups as well, people coming from organizations that are really all sizes. Now, from why they're joining, right? Most people are joining the Institute for the sake of a career change. Others are doing it for an internal change to social good. And what we mean by that is, as an example, we've had a director from Amazon who works in supply chain and distribution. So somebody in that role, and how can they continue to mold their role to help create more of an impact, and what can they do in their personal life to be more intentional and create an impact. Other people for the sake of promotion, of actually getting their companies to even sponsor their involvement within the Institute to continue to grow. And then many for sector change, from government to startup, from startup to international NGO, from international NGO to education institutions, people really coming from all over for different reasons. But the common theme is, I want my career to make a social impact, and I want to better understand what drives me personally and professionally, so I'm actually in that position. Now, people are coming from all over, over 12 countries represented. The US makes over just over half of our participation, but you can see that people also joining us from other countries, and we're actually continuing to see this expand in interest coming from more countries. And so I'll explain why that's actually driving the own expansion of the Institute. And now what you can also see is level of participation. So most participants have been in the professional sector for a number of years. By professional sector, I simply mean they've been working in a career for a while. The average is a little over 10 years. Our youngest is just 2 years out of school, and our eldest is a retired executive. So people really do span, and we intentionally screen for age, role, and geographic diversity to make sure that we have a robust and rich cohort. But what we're saying is, as long as you have demonstrated professional experience, as long as you're committed to using the next stage of your career for social good, provided you're actually understanding how the value of experience will get you there, then that's how this Institute will help you. And you can see that people are primarily coming to the Institute from the for-profit sector, which is in the bottom right here, but you'll see also from education, also from government, and also from nonprofit. So really, to say the diversity of this cohort is what makes it so special. And at the end of your fellowship, you'll actually enter into an online LinkedIn community that has all our previous fellows from our other programs as well, so you can continue to grow and expand your network. Now, as I mentioned, we have people coming to us from more places and interest from more countries. So what you'll see is we are running our first cohort in 2018 for the western coast of loosely speaking, the Americas. We find time zone makes things a little bit easier, although certainly is not a limiting factor by any means. So our first cohort will kick off in the second week of January in San Francisco. Accepted applicants will learn more about location, date, and exact details. Applications for that close October 31st, and you'll know by mid-November. So if you want to join our first cohort in San Francisco, then that will run for 6 months starting January. The next one, to be a little bit more friendly to those in Europe, Middle East, Africa, And also, we think this will be a little bit easier for those as well in Asia and East Asia. Application for that will end on March 14th. You'll be notified by the end of March, and the kickoff training for that will be May 25th. And that program will end in November 30th. And that training kickoff weekend will be in Amsterdam. So that's just that May 25th to 28th weekend will be in Amsterdam. And then we're coming back to the Americas into Washington, D.C. Applications for that close on June 30th. You'll be notified by July 15th. Your in-person training will be the first weekend in September, and that program will end in February 2019. And then we'll be expanding a new location for East Asia and Oceania in 2019. Now, you can come from anywhere. Our current cohort fellowship has people from South Africa, from Australia, from Europe, and from the US and Canada and more. So you really can come from anywhere to any of these, but depending on what your dates are like in 2018, we're adding new cities. And so your call schedules, your training schedules will be more friendly to you. Now, keep in mind, you will be in your own cohort size of around 12 to 18 people, and that's dependent on application pool, and that we get a proper and diverse makeup of applicants. We reserve the right to grow that size a little bit to make sure that there's more diversity in there. We also reserve the right to limit that application pool a little bit to make sure that there's a solid makeup of accountability and others. So in addition to your individual cohort, which you'll build as part of your in-person training, globally will be connected to fellows from the past, as well as those that join after you through our online community. So pricing, as if you have been following us, you will notice that there is a slight increase in pricing. That is because of more locations that we're adding, and for this to be geographically distributed. As a result, we're also adding more speakers. We're also adding more programmings and assessments, as well as more powerful online tools. In addition, you get Premium Plus matching support that's only been available to our corporate partners thus far. So that's how we guarantee your match. You'll also get private webinars, invitations to private webinars with industry leaders. Those are recorded and saved, but again, only for people that are participating in this program. And then you'll get ongoing access to that global alumni network. One thing to keep in mind is that we do cover all your costs for the in-person training. So that's 3 days of meals and lodging. However, travel to that in-person location, as well as traveling for your experteering assignment, is something that we are not able to cover. So you will be responsible for that. If you have questions about that, we have recommendations and guides about how to talk to your employer in case they can sponsor it. Other fellows in the past have crowdfunded and also turned to other giving campaigns to help fund their own participation. So there's a couple different ways. If that's a barrier, please let us know. We will also be publishing our new scholarship policy for 2018, where you can also tune in for that in case that's not fully available. But we do know that there is a price tag here. What we also know is that we are committed to creating as diverse of a cohort as possible. So if you have questions about this, if price is a blocker, please do talk to us, and we can talk to you about how fellows in the past have worked with us before, both in terms of payment plans as well as scholarship opportunities. So if you are interested and you're bringing more than a few people at once, we have separate programs available for that. But this is really for you coming, on your own to engage in really a radical learning experience over the course of the coming 6 months. So that's the core. We have more information on our website in our FAQ section, and we will also be hosting live Q&As and Ask Me Anythings, so you can turn to those for more guidance. But otherwise, Cole, I'm going to turn it back to you to maybe highlight some of those ending next steps, and then to close us out.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you, everyone who's been listening along this whole time. We are so deeply excited to be moving into the next cohort of the MovingWorlds Institute, just seeing what's happened with the past cohorts and how not only we've had some huge breakthroughs of people making the career transition they've been dreaming about for a decade, or folks joining a community of other people who are committed to having an impact where they hadn't felt that for years and years, or just learning something new about themselves that allows them to really kind of refine the way their current job is going and the way that their company interacts with the world. It's been such an amazing blessing to be a part of this program, and we hope that if you can see yourself in it, that you'll reach out, ask any questions that you have of us, and that we can provide you with some of our insights. Just as an example, Mark and I and other members of the community have been working as social entrepreneurs for over a decade. We've been teaching these concepts in universities. We've been working with corporations all over the world to try to help them to have a bigger impact. And we brought all that together in the MovingWorlds Institute to distill for you an experience that'll help you to have a bigger impact and to transition into something more meaningful. So we're so excited to hear from you. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to us via the site. We're going to be having a Q&A next Thursday, October 12th. We'll be getting more information about that. Please register and bring any questions that you have. And again, we're available for you anytime. Make sure to reach out to us sooner than later because applications have a hard deadline, October 31st, and we do a rolling application, so you can get an opportunity to get some good exposure and get a chance to talk to us right now. But thank you again for being here with us, and we are so excited to have you as a part of the next MovingWorlds Institute cohort.